great. Let's take you back now live to outside the Supreme Court in Bloemfontein. Samkele, what's the latest on your side?
The leader of the Democratic Alliance, Mr. John Steenhuisen, and the DA members and some of their provincial leaders have also arrived here in court for the appeal of former President Jacob Zuma on his medical parole. You'd remember that the Democratic Alliance and the Helen Suzman Foundation challenged Mr. Arthur Fraser, the former Director General of the Correctional Services Department, on the medical parole he had granted former President Jacob Zuma on his 15-month incarceration, which was granted by the Constitutional Court for his non-adherence and not appearing before the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. But I'm going to bring in Mr. John Steenhuisen now to further speak on the DA's case. Mr. Steenhuisen, you've brought a case against the former president at the High Court. You won that particular case. His parole was declared unlawful. He's now challenging this particular decision of the Higher Court at the Supreme Court of Appeals. His prospects of success at this court, do you see it being fruitful, or are you seeing it being upheld, that decision of the lower court?
Well, I don't think it's going to be overturned, because the argument is now being changed. If you look at the papers that have now been filed, it's no longer whether the medical parole was qualified. It was the fact that Mr. Fraser said that there'll be violence if Mr. Zuma went to jail. That cannot ever be a determining factor whether someone is granted medical parole or not, because that means that if you want to avoid jail, just get a group of your supporters, threaten violence, and you will avoid being sentenced. I think that they're shifting the goalposts, knowing that the case that they've brought on appeal is a weak case, and we have no doubt that this court will uphold the lower court's correct judgment that this medical parole was a sham and it should never have been granted.
When you look at the former president's court papers, particularly when you look at his state of health, you look at Arthur Fraser now saying that it was because of threats of violence within the country, and you go back to the State Capture Commission of Inquiry report, which speaks about the former president squashing an investigation into Arthur Fraser at the State Security Agency, and subsequently Arthur Fraser, years later, scratching the former president's back by releasing him out of prison. Do you see a generally perceived corrupt relationship between the two of friends scratching one another's back?
Absolutely, and I think if you look at the revelations that have emerged from Zondo around what the State Security Agency itself was up to, the payments that have allegedly been made to the former president as an informer, the use of the State Security Agency as an agency of protecting Mr. Zuma rather than state security itself, I think you start to see that pattern emerge. But here's the thing. Why did Mr. Ramaphosa appoint him as the head of the Correctional Services? Well, I think that's also becoming obvious now, because it's very clear Mr. Fraser's got the files on everybody.
Mr. Steenhuisen, a last question before I let you to go into court. Can you just let us in briefly some of the heads of arguments that your team have briefed you about, not for you to divulge your entire case, but some of the heads of arguments you'll be presenting inside courts today?
Well, the medical parole, the heads of argument are very simple. The medical parole process is set out in law. There's no discretion that you can bring to a legal process. That process was not followed by Mr. Fraser or the Correctional Services Department, and this was an unlawful medical parole that was granted. It's important that we close this back door down, because I'm hoping that arising out of Zondo, many more senior ANC people are going to find themselves on the wrong side of the bars, and I don't want a revolving door at the back of prisons where they're suddenly being given medical parole to escape the sentences that they deserve for 10 years of state capture.
So in essence, you want the former president to be locked up?
Well, I think he must face the effects of the law exactly the same as any other person in this situation would face. Equality before the law is a foundational principle. Doesn't matter if you're a former president or a street sweeper or the leader of the opposition. If you break the law, you must do the time.
Thank you very much, Mr. John Steenhuisen. That is the leader of the Democratic Alliance. But as per the ANC's resolution from the Provincial Conference of the ANC, on another aspect, you've got the African National Congress, the Musa region where the former president currently resides in, has resolved in the regional conference that they will support the former president in all of his court cases. Even the Provincial Conference resolved so at the ice rink where they held their provincial conference. I'm going to bring in the regional chairperson of Musa to speak on the effects of the regional conference resolution to support the former president.
So as the Musa ANC, we took a clear resolution on our support for President Jacob Zuma, that we will definitely support him wherever he goes. We will be there. because we believe that he is innocent until proven guilty. And on this particular matter here, we were of the firm view that President JZ did not release himself from the prison, but he followed all due processes. So he applied for the medical parole, and it was therefore granted for him. So he is not the one who should be charged or who should be questioned.
When you look,
we are here to support him.
it's not only the regional conference of Musa Dlala that took a resolution to support the former president, also your provincial conference took that specific resolution. Are any of your provincial leaders coming to support the former president here today?
No, they are not here, but I cannot speak on their behalf. I believe that you do have the numbers for the provincial, Secretary Comrade Begum Tolo. But my understanding is that they are engaged on other political issues. As I believe that they are having a PWC meeting. It is my firm belief as well that if they were not committed, then they would be here to support Comrade JZ. Because it was also a provincial conference resolution that even the ANC in the province would ensure that they support President JZ.
When you also, have you had an engagement with the former president? Do you understand that he is around Bloemfontein, or have you had an engagement with him back home in Musa Dlala prior to coming to court today?
No, we never had any engagement with him, but as the ANC in Musa Dlala, as we resolved that we would support him. It is our we always try and find out. In actual fact, there's a person who's the link between us and the JZ. He's a spokesperson who always informs us of when he's appearing in court. So then that is why we are here today.
Thank you very much. That is the regional chairperson of Musa Dlala region, and the regional executive, the deputy chair, and also the secretary is here, and other regional leaders of the Musa Dlala region, where former President Jacob Zuma comes from. But I'm going to bring in lastly Mr. Sam Mashinini, who is the former provincial chairperson of the Free State province. Mr. Mashinini, just your words of support on former President Jacob Zuma and his medical parole.
No, I do. We do support President Jacob Zuma. We have been supporting him from the beginning until now. The issue is that if the correctional services have basically given him the parole, I don't know why are we contesting that, because that person has got the right. And that's why I'm saying the president has got the right to appeal against that decision of the High Court.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sam Mashinini. That is Sam Mashinini, the former provincial chairperson of the ANC in the Free State. You've seen the Democratic Alliance led by their leader, Mr. John Steenhuisen, here to support their legal team, and they are heads of arguments that the former president's decision of the lower high court that he must go back to prison and must be incarcerated for disobeying the State Capture Commission of Inquiry and the Constitutional High Court and the attack on the judiciary of the country, must go back for his 15-month jail term. But you've also seen the regional leaders of the ANC of Musa Dlala region, who the former President Jacob Zuma resides and comes from that specific region.
Yeah, I know this will be a difficult one to answer, but Sam Mashinini seems a bit subdued today. Do we know why?
It's not yet clear why he may be subdued, but we are anticipating that they are preparing to go to their own provincial conference here within the Free State province. And he's also been quite unwell for quite some time now. When you look at the COVID-19 that affected South Africa, he was also infected with that particular virus of COVID-19, and it took a huge toll on his own health.
All right, thank you so much. Of course, we'll continue to watch developments there. The Democratic Alliance, uncharacteristically in court today. I wonder if that will have any impact on the processes as we continue to watch developments coming out from Bloemfontein in the Supreme High Court.